Here, founder and lead designer of Rogue Home Cinema. My first live in YouTube, so this is cool. I finally got the thumbs up from YouTube to be able to do this stuff. So what am I doing here today? We're actually looking at the effects of different multiple subwoofers in and around a cinema room. So a cinema room being acoustically a small room, and we've got the ability to run lots and lots of subs and speakers. What's the best way of actually doing that? Well, first of all, why have multiple subwoofers? Well, we want to hear high impact, detailed bass, though the problem is that when we listen to bass in a small room, it bounces around, it clashes around, and we can end up having hollow or muddy or over-exaggerated bass. So that brings with home cinema the need for bass management. Now, there's a few different ways of doing bass management. One is what they called a summed approach. That is where you could have multiple subwoofers and they're all actually running together at the same time to create, they push and pull against each other to create like the highest impact, punchiest sound in the seat. So we've got our row of seats here. We've got a rack in the corner, and we got lots of speakers down the side walls, lots of speakers around the front wall, and being a demo room, we got lots of projectors as well. So what am I going to do today? Well, we've actually got the Storm Audio ISP32. This is the Mark II. This is a real high audiophile quality cinema processor. Should probably turn it on soon. Now this has up to 32 channels, so we can have our 9 channels around the room. We got our overhead Atmos channels, and we got lots of channels for subs, and we got lots of channels left over, and we got even more channels left over. We've literally got more channels than we need. So how can we distribute bass in a different way other than just the summed mono? The other concept here is what they call the associated bass concept. And this is where I'm going to give the example of the surround left channel that lives behind this acoustic panel here. When that gets delivered bass, or the full range sound, now first of all we need to know that the soundtracks do actually offer full range sound per speaker in the room. So every speaker in the room is capable of full range. Now the speakers we use for surround sound are only capable of going so deep. So we cut them off, send them to the subs. A really smart way of doing this is using multiple subs, so then they distribute that bass sound smooth and punchy for a whole load of seats in the room, not just for one seat. So we get a better bass over more seats. Now the other concept is to go, well, okay, that speaker can't do all the bass, but wouldn't it be nice if the bass information that was designed for that speaker came from this sort of location? And this is the associated bass concept. So that is, if our front left channel here had bass coming out of it, let's send the bass to that subwoofer rather than all of them. So our surround left channel here, when the bass runs out of gas, we're going to send it to a 10-inch slimline sub that lives behind this wall. And now our wide channels are in these panels. We can also associate bass to this speaker. And our Atmos channels above here on the left side of the room can associate to this left side subwoofer as well. So that's pretty cool. Now that sub's only going to run down about 40 hertz before it runs out of gas, and then we'll have to send the bass from the surround speaker to the associated sub to the big quad distributed subs. Got some amazing Wisdom subwoofers back here. They're really cool. So it's a little bit complex. That means that no ordinary processor can actually do this stuff. You've got to go something like a Trinnov or a Storm Audio, something really powerful. Datasat, they haven't really done a lot of development in the last few years, but they're the sort of units that have the channel count and the sort of processing that can make it happen. They do need the logic and the software. So the Storm Mark II just upgraded to the bass zone strategy earlier this year, which allows us to actually play around. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to finally connect up these subs. They're actually connected. They're running off our Anthem Audio amplifiers here. So they're connected, but they're not configured. So I'm going to have to configure this processor under a whole new profile, give it a calibration, design the subwoofer zones, and compare this room in 2 ways. All the bass running to our quad subs as a equal summed bass soundtrack, And in the second way, we're going to listen to associated bass, where every effects channel in the room is going to send bass to the nearest subwoofer. And given that we've got 6 of them all around the room, we should be able to really tell whether or not we are appreciating that localized bass or whether we're actually missing some impact because of the whole standing wave issue. Now, some will say that a steady state sound, like a droney bass note, will build up in the room. It will indeed have standing waves. It will cause problems. But then others will say, well, a quick snap of bass, something that's really dynamic, a bit like this surround speaker, the bass soundtrack, I would imagine a director, sound editor, would put to that would be very dynamic. It would be the smashing truck on the way past, or King Kong, which is one of our favorite ones, blasting down the side of the room. Now, if King Kong's blasting down the side of the room, he's going to boom, boom, boom. So would that subwoofer punching from the side of the room make it sound like there's more weight and depth and realism of bass from the side of the room rather than going to all the subs? So it's a little bit complex. I'm really hoping I made a little bit of sense in that. We'll do a full video of this with some B-roll and some of the images so you can actually see what's happening behind the scenes here. I'll record the setup and the configuration of the Storm Audio. It's quite a unique way of setting these things up, so you can actually see how far we're probing into it. And I'm really excited to hear the results. I've been using this room a lot. We've had it running for about 6 weeks now. I'm going to play a lot of cool Ultra Blu-ray movies that I know do take advantage of all the effects channels. Not every Atmos film will use the wide channels, right? So we want these wides, we want the Atmos running, and we want to hear what happens to the illusion or the impact of bass when we associate it around the room rather than summed into one. All right, I'll check in again as we actually make some progress and actually give you guys some more answers on which is the best way of delivering bass around the room. All right, we'll catch you next time. Bye.